Hi everyone. So in this video what we're going to do is we're going to take our revised themes and put them in a very small Unity game. So I will provide you with a link that takes you to a starter Unity template. So that's this zip file here, and I'll unzip that and it will appear on my desktop here. And now you'll see inside of this is actually a Unity project altogether with an assets folder and things like that. But we want to open it within the Unity Hub. So I'll open Unity Hub, then I'll choose projects over here, add, and then add that project, which in this case is called the Unity Berkeley First Person Master. And we'll add that, and you'll see it added right up here. And I'll go ahead and just click on it, and that will open that project in Unity. And it will take a little while for it to kind of open up. And this will be our good starter template to implement kind of our basic themes within a very small 3D world. So it goes ahead and imports these scripts, kind of builds the project. And once it's built the project, it will actually open it. And then we'll go ahead and kind of create several speakers in our world that play each one of our new themes. And then we'll kind of zip all that up and submit it to the assignment. All right, here we go. So I've opened it up, and the first thing that you want to do is you want to go to the window menu and get to our default layout so our windows look the same. So you can have other types of layouts like 2x3 and things like that. And for right now, I think the easiest layout to work with is the default layout. All right, so that's here. And the second thing that we want to do is double click our starter scene so that we're looking at our starter scene here. This is a starter scene that has a first person character in it that has some footsteps. So if we hit play, we actually can move around in this world a little bit. And actually there's a monolith that I created. And to test the audio, I can kind of walk around. Now to walk around and to move, you can use your mouse to kind of look around, just moving my mouse around. And then to move forward, you have to use the W key to move forward, the S key to move back, the A key to kind of move left, and the D key. So they call this WASD. WASD, so WASD, to kind of move around. You also can use left, right, forward, and back if you want, but it's sometimes easier to kind of use in your left hand the letter keys and then move your mouse with your right if you're right-handed like I am. I've actually put something on this monolith here, so when we collide with it, we'll actually play a sound. So that's just kind of giving you an idea of the project in its initial state, a very simple project itself. And what we're going to do is put some of our music in this scene. So the first thing that we want to do when importing our music is we have our two themes here, and we actually can just drag those into our assets folder like this. When I do that, it's actually making copies of those two WAV files and putting them inside the assets folder here. These are a little big, so it may take a while for these themes to import. And actually what it's doing is it's converting them to the default compression. You always want to insert waves as opposed to MP3s and OGGs, because Unity itself will actually compress them to a specific format. So you don't want to compress twice. So in this case, they are actually compressing to OGG files. And if I open up that project folder that I downloaded and look in the assets folder, I'll actually see those two themes here. The metadata files here actually help with the conversions in terms of the conversion settings and things like that to whatever compression settings we have set up. Don't worry about that for now. We have two themes within our game, which is cool. And now we'll get them to play within our game. I'm going to just review. We can zoom away from our scene by using if you have a scroll wheel on your mouse. The other thing, or you can use 2 fingers on a trackpad to sort of zoom in and out. There are a few other ways to do that. If you right click, you can see it turns into a sort of an eye icon. You can actually use those same arrow keys the same letter keys, so the W, A, S, and D, to move back, forward, left, and right, as long as you're right clicked. So that's a way to navigate the world a little bit. All right, so we're going to create 2 new game objects. So game object, we're going to create within our world. Let's create a sphere first, and it created kind of a sphere in the middle of our world here. I'm going to make it bigger because it's pretty small right now. I'm going to change the scale to 5, 5, and 5. So my scale on my sphere, so just review sphere, and then I can change the scale. All right, so I'm going to put that kind of over here in my world. If it doesn't appear, it might be below the world, and you may have to bring it up, in which case you may want to zoom back and things like that. All right, so we have our sphere over here, and let's create one more. We're going to create another object on the other side. We'll create a cube, and the cube is kind of small. We'll put that on the other side here, and we'll also make that 5, 5, 5 scale, so we have kind of a big cube and a sphere over here like that. And so now when I play the game, my camera is kind of in the center, so I can see over here, here's my cube, and there's my sphere over here. And what we want to do is we want to attach an audio source to each one of these. So what I'll do is this object here, I'll select my cube, which I can do there. We'll add a component, and we're going to add an audio source. So you can begin typing, and it will say audio source. So we've added an audio source to our world. We're going to choose the audio clip here, which will be theme 1. Now theme 1 is attached to that, and there's a play, one of the other properties is play on awake. So if we hit play right now, we'll hear that theme sort of coming from that cube. That's where the audio source is, but it's not being spatialized yet because our spatial blend is set to 2D instead of 3D. So the last thing that we'll do is kind of set it to 3D like this. So now it will spatialize in the world, sort of like if I have a musician playing in the world and I'm sort of walking around that musician or that little orchestra that I have. So now when I move towards the object here, I'll be able to hear it and then kind of rotate it, pan it sort of left and right like that, because it's being spatialized in the world itself because I've set it to 3D. So over here what I'll do on this object is do the same thing. I'll just add an audio source, and then I'll select the clip, which will be, oops, wrong button. I'll select the audio clip by pressing that little circle icon and do that theme 2. And then I'll make sure that it's also spatialized like this. So make sure that it's not 2D but actually all the way over on the right, 3D. Now I'll hear both themes in the world, but because everything's controlled by distance, I'll have to kind of walk up to this to hear. It's pretty quiet right now, and I can hear this theme over here. Oh, and you can hear some pitch shift too. We'll talk about that. So right now Doppler shift is enabled for both of them. So if we go into the 3D sound settings, we can actually see the roll-off curve of, and we can set the maximum distance for each one of these to something. I'm going to do 10 and do a linear roll-off, so as we walk away, it's going to dissipate in terms of or attenuate as I walk away from it. So I'll just leave it at 10. They don't specify units, so you can call those meters or feet if you want to. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to go to the 3D sound settings and change the maximum distance to 10 and change it to a linear roll-off. Okay, I'm going to leave that open on the cube because what you can see here is when I press play and as I move closer to the cube, my listener position comes into view. And then as I back away, it goes away. I still have awful Doppler, and I want to get rid of that. There's a Doppler level here. We're going to turn that to 0 on both of them so they don't pitch shift on me. But Doppler is useful for if you have a car going past you or a train or something like that. What we've done is basically set up a roll-off so as we move away, it will stop playing at a certain distance. And so now if we hit play again, what we'll do is kind of walk over to this one, and we'll hear our theme on this one. And then as we move over to this one, that one will fade out, and then we'll get to this one, and then we'll hear this one playing. So we can hear our two themes. Now, if your objects are too close together, maybe move them a little bit further apart so that we can hear them in a 3D space. Now, this is just to get you acquainted with how an audio source can be set to 2D or 3D. If it's 3D, it will actually attenuate and pan based on the listener position, which in this case is the camera here, and then in this project is called the first-person controller, which actually contains a camera on it if we kind of open it up. But don't worry about that for now. Over here, this is the audio source, which is kind of like a speaker within our world, and another speaker over here. If we change it back to 2D, it will be more like extra diegetic music, and it won't pay attention to the distant sources at all. It won't pay attention to any of that. This is about as complicated as we're going to get in terms of just sort of showing you what a game looks like and how to insert little sounds into your game. Then what I want you to do is kind of save your scene, and we can quit out. And then what we want to do is before we zip it up, we'll put a name on it, and I'll give you a specific naming convention to use. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but let's say it's Michael Sweet Project. Then what we'll do is zip that up, we'll compress it, and then that's what you'll send to the assignment. I actually have two monitors, so it's zipping on my other window right now, which I'll try and grab and bring over. Oops, didn't catch it in time. Anyway, so this is my zip folder, and this is what I submit to the assignment. So that's a little bit about Unity, a little bit about how to make a tiny little game, and how to implement your themes. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.